Hey everyone, Chris Mack presents, and we are finally back with action figure reviews. I appreciate you all sticking with me through this move. It was a feat, but it's done, and we're finally in a place where we can kind of settle down and do this awesomeness together. So today we are going over the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse still action figure from the reign of Superman. I thought about getting the Mafex version, but after moving X amount of states over, I'm having to save a little bit of money. So if you guys enjoy what you're seeing, please first and foremost support your local comic shop, or at the time of this recording, alas, it is sold out on Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store, but I always say first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever you like to get your comics and action figures. If not, it is still available on Amazon, so go grab it. As you can see here, still on the front, name on the bottom, DC Multiverse there, nothing on the top, the same window here on the box, bleh, the side here on the back. Love this artist rendition. I'm a little disappointed because in the early days they would put what issue the art would come from, but they did not do that here, or at least I did not see it, which is disappointing. But nonetheless, beautiful artist rendition of Still here on the back. Come around to the side, and as I've always said with these figures, I'm glad that they put this on the side because it's easier than trying to pull so many figures off the pegs trying to find the one that you want. Nothing on the bottom. So with that said, is this version awesome or not? Let's get John Henry Irons out of the packaging and get a closer look at him. And here's Still out of the packaging, and the sculpt is absolutely beautiful. There are already a few things that irk my gurk, but I may be able to set them aside just based on how gorgeous this figure came out. Now, obviously, there's the McFarlane, or should I say mainstream, figure line things that are kind of like... But let's set those aside and let's get this awesome looking piece off the spinner and see what all John Henry Irons has to offer. Dr. John Henry Irons was created by Louise Simonson and John Bogdanovo, I think is how you pronounce his name, and first appeared in the Adventures of Superman number 500 from June of 1993. John originally was a brilliant weapons engineer for Ameritech Industries, and he faked his own death and eventually came to Metropolis so he'd not be coerced by that company to retain his services. While working on a construction site, John managed to save another worker from a fall, but fell off the building himself, only for the Man of Steel, Superman, to catch him just in time. And John asked Superman, he said, "I owe you my life. How can I show you my gratitude?" And Superman responded, "Then make it count for something," essentially saying, make your life count for something. So when Superman battles Doomsday, John is buried in the rubble amidst the devastation. After Superman's tragic death, John awakens, crawling from the wreckage, confused, saying, "Gotta stop Doomsday." And after recovering from a gang drive-by, he discovers that the gangs in the inner city Metropolis are fighting a devastating gang war using BG-80 Toastmasters, which were an upgraded version of his earlier Ameritech design. So John creates and dons a suit of power armor in Superman's memory to stop this war, as well as the weapons, which were being distributed by Dr. Angoria Laplin, also known as the White Rabbit or Dr. Bunny, who was a former partner and lover during his time at Ameritech Industries. During the reign of Superman story arc, John Henry Irons was named Still by Superman himself. And that's how we got this awesome character that I wish DC would do more with, because he was always one of my favorites. And out of all the quote-unquote pretenders, I always felt that John was the most sincere in talking about how all these other, especially the Eradicator, he tells him, "I wear this symbol in remembrance of Superman, and everything that you're doing, just attacking people blatantly, is not Superman's memory." And it really starts making the Eradicator question his, the way that he's handling himself, donning the Man of Steel's symbol. So for the paint apps, as you can see, very beautifully done. I do hate, though, because in the comics, they gave him an S on his cape, so it really kind of chaps my hide that they didn't put a Superman S here on the back, but at least he's got his, wrist blasters that he can shoot different stuff. To me, still kind of reminds me like DC's version of Iron Man, and that's why I love him. Brilliant man that builds a suit of armor. Yeah, this could be the Metropolis's Tony Stark. So there's so many possibilities that they could do with this character, and he just has not gained that much traction, but I'm glad that fans love him, because I do. And the still work is awesome. The one thing that confuses me a little bit is these paint, like light blue paint splotches. I don't know what that's supposed to represent, but it is what it is. I love that they make sure that the divots are pronounced on the armor to make it look like how he actually hammered and forged this himself. The eyes, the face sculpt looks great. The S is very pronounced and super awesome, literally. All the rivets, the boots, the feet being flat are a little odd, but it shows that it's a suit of armor, so that looks great. The grays, I like how that it's dirty, so it doesn't look clean, because, you know, he built it essentially in his basement, and he went straight to fighting all these gangs that were using his weapons design. So he went through the mill during the Reign of Superman arc. I love how his, what are these called? There's an old term armor name for like cauldrons. I know it's not cauldrons, but something like that, but I forget. Anyway, all the padding looks absolutely amazing. Very beautiful sculpted piece there. And his hammer, I kind of wish that McFarlane would start going the Mafex route. I mean, if he can't do the bendy wire cape, I wish that he would start just making cloth capes just a normal. I know he's been doing it on certain characters, but these heavy plastic capes, I'm so tired of them, because they mess with the balance of your figure, and there's not much you can do. Like, especially if you want to put them like sitting down, these capes are always a pain in the ass. Anyway, that said, this hammer looks great, don't get me wrong. But I wish, kind of like, for example, when I got the Mafex Batman, the Hush Batman, his rappel line is like a aluminum or something. So I wish that they would have done something like that with this hammer. Like I said, I wanted to get the Mafex version, but this price, after moving, money's a little tight. So got this one. I like it, but I wish that this was more metal or a more sturdy plastic, because it's very bendy. So when you get it out, you're going to have to straighten that handle. I'm still kind of having a bit of a time, but he still has that same, what do you call it, splotchy blue on here. So just again has that very dirty, gritty look. Looks great and fits in his hand relatively well. But see, that's why I wish it wasn't such that clunky plastic, because it just looks a little odd. Speaking of, I wish that we would have got more accessories other than the hammer. Wish we could have got some more like punching hands. And that's another thing where Mafex, of course, has the ups on Hasbro and McFarlane, is because we only get this gripping hand and the resting hand. That's it. That, to me, is poo-poo. Mafex kicks your ass because you get punching hands, resting hands, gripping hands, pointing fingers. You get like this array. And I kind of hope that McFarlane eventually realizes that he's going to have to start upping his game in that regard, because this is frustrating. Surprisingly, the articulation for this bulky figure is not too bad. The head, once you've warmed it up, of course, I warmed him up for a little bit because he was stiff coming out of the packaging. But once you get there, I think that's a, what do you call those things? Dumbbell joint, because you're able to move it around relatively well. He looks down great. Up, so-so. Side, side. Of course, you get a lot of play in the head, so you get a good range there. Even with these shoulder pads, you can work around them. Of course, I wish they were a little more bendy, but at least you get relatively back and forth there. The 360, kinda, sorta. Yeah, there it is. Double jointed elbows, thankfully. He does have the upper bicep swivel. Hand spins, up, down, good stuff there. Twist, twist. And he does kind of move here at the solar plex as well as down towards the hips. So you can get him to go down that far back. Legs, that far. And then, sadly, it looks like McFarlane took a page from Hasbro instead of the other way around, because now we got hard shell butt flaps, so you can't go back 90 degrees like a lot of the other McFarlane figures. So that's disappointing that you don't get that. But it is more plasticky here on the front, so you can kick out about that much. Does have a bit of a leg swivel there. Double jointed knees. Sadly, no boot cut, which is another thing that's disappointing. Foot go down. Foot go up. And of course, you get the good, foot swivel there. And a little bit of an ankle rocker. So it's a little stiff. I still got to warm this guy up some more. But at least you're still getting a relatively decent range of motion for a bulkier figure. And for that, can't complain too much. Now, here's still next to the Reign of Superman figures that we've already gotten. Here's the Gold Label Eradicator, the Con-El Superboy, and then the Action 1000 Superman. And you place them all together. They look beautiful, but I'm going to say right now, I hate the scaling that they chose for Superboy. That we'll go over this figure eventually. But come on, he's supposed to be young. Like, I hate to say it, but the Kenner one that came out back in, 97, 98, has a better scalability than this one. He should not be that big. When they created this figure, they definitely should have used that Gold Label Dick Grayson Robin size. That was the perfect size to go with these 7-inch figures. And I also wish that they would have done from the Reign of Superman version of the Eradicator when he looked more human. They went with when Tomasi and Gleason did the the Superman comic book, and the Eradicator came back and started attacking him and John, and that's why he's black in this version, because he's supposed to look more cosmic, which I get. But if you're trying to do a Reign of Superman line, they should have kept it, and then instead of doing the gold paint, they should have done like a see-through visor like they did the Carrie Kelly Dark Knight Returns. But I digress. Still, next to the rest of these Supermen, look absolutely fantastic. Now, I've heard it through the grapevine that there's supposed to be a McFarlane Cyborg Superman, so fingers crossed, because then we can finally start getting the rest of these. And again, we'll go over the Eradicator, because I wish he would have came with some of those like Kirby Crackle Cosmic Blast. But anyway, we're focusing on Still, and he looks great. Next to all these figures, I can't complain. What do y'all think? Are you enjoying these Reign of Superman figures that we're getting? And that Action 1000 just looks absolutely spectacular with these. I don't really want to go for I know they have a long-haired version when Superman came back, but I'm just going to forget that Superman had long hair because it was just a thing. Now, one quick thing. Do you guys remember, I know Mafex came out with the black uniform for Superman when he came out of the Kryptonian armor. I don't think McFarlane's done that one yet, so let's hope that we get that too, because that would just sort of be like the cherry on top for these figures. For the most part, I thoroughly enjoyed this iteration of Still. Yeah, I wish I kind of would have broke down. I got the Mafex version, but again, budget. And for what you get with this, I'm content. I do wish, though, since McFarlane's been kind of dabbling with those cloth capes, that we would have gotten that with Steel, especially with some bendy wire, man. Being able to make a cape flap would be great. I hate the weight of these plastic capes. It is so frustrating. The other thing that I kind of wish that he could try to finagle is, instead of giving us a plastic hammer, give us something that's sort of, aluminum or something that looks more akin to Steel. I get plastic's cheaper, but man, I kind of missed the mark when you're talking about Steel, the guy that is in a metal suit. Now, price aside, I kind of wish that they would have given him some extra hands other than just a grab and a pointer hand, because then it kind of limits your posing and photography options, because those are the only two hands you get. I hate when we get that, especially since this wasn't part of like a Build-A-Figure Waves, so it wasn't like he was stuck in any type of budget in that regard. That aside, I'm a happy little camper with this figure. It's beautiful. It really encompasses what John Henry Irons did to homage the Man of Steel after he fell attacking Doomsday. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop, wherever it is that you get your action figures and comic books. And if not, you can check out the places that we talked about at the beginning of the review. And if you've enjoyed this, I really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little super bell next to subscribe, that way as I can tip all content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or the socials, which I'll also make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, photo slideshow coming up next. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.